Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Constance the Reader, and today is going to be part one of my reading wrap up. So, in the month of September, my job was stressing me the hell out. I mean, it was pretty bad, and it's okay. I did get some reading done in September, but a lot of what happened in September was me starting stuff and then I didn't finish it until October, and that's okay. That's why we're going to be doing a part one, because I've actually read a lot in the month of October / finished stuff from September. So we're already up to like 24 books that I made this list about. Okay, I'm very excited. So we're going to get straight into the books that I have finished. So one of the first books that I did finish, and this I actually read in the month of September, was The Girl with the Dragon Fruit Tattoo by Carol Doyle. This is book 3 in the Trouble in Paradise series. Cozy mystery, very good. I rated it 5 stars. The first 2 books in this series that I listened to were an audiobook. This one I got as an ebook from NetGalley. This doesn't come out until next year, and I thought it was so good. One of the things I like the most about this book about the series is that it is so funny. I laughed out loud several times during this book, and I do it through all 3 books that I've read of this series. So, as we know, as I've said, Plum inadvertently is solving mysteries. She doesn't really plan to, but it happens, which is what you would expect with a cozy mystery most of the time. In this one, Plum, she's still trying to get it done with, her luxury real estate business. And one of her friends from when she worked at the magazine in New York pops up on a yacht and was like, hey, I totally want to see you. So Plum shows up. It's full of celebrities, singers, producers, and she's like, okay, I kind of miss this, being around all the fashionable people. But of course, there's a murder, and she is asked by the police to go undercover, and it is very, very funny. Very, very funny. We're trying to solve the murder of 2 people eventually, but also the theft of turtle eggs, which is illegal because they are an endangered species. So very, very funny book. I would absolutely recommend this one, but the series as a whole. In general, I just think Plum is very funny. She started off as an unlikable character, but has become someone that I genuinely root for. She has her adversaries that are not that bad, but they're crappy. And I just love to see her win. That's what's the most important thing to me, is when Plum wins. So 5 stars, definitely recommend the series. Next, I listened to From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So I rated this 3.5 stars. I actually thought this was really good, especially as an audiobook. I thought the narrator was awesome, and I've had this series on my shelf for quite some time. I have admitted that I had a problem purchasing an entire series of adult fantasy before I'd even read the first book. I am guilty. This I know. But at the end of the day, I was like, let me go ahead and read this. And I finished it, and it was really, really good. Very entertaining. So, to be fair, I went in this not knowing what the hell is going on. I clearly missed stuff, but I enjoyed myself. And that's what's important. So basically, we're following our main character, Poppy. She is the maiden of this kingdom that kind of make sacrifices to gods to keep away these monsters. And she has to live a pure life, so she doesn't experience anything like kisses or going out and partying and dancing. But one night she goes out as a secret, because most people don't know what she looks like. Runs into this guard who I cannot for the life of me remember his name. I'm sorry. I think it's probably something simple, but that doesn't matter. And to get a little flirtation, and that's really cute for her. I'm happy for her. Anyway, so she is trying to navigate her life as the maiden of this kingdom, who will eventually have to be sacrificed in a way that she doesn't know how. Wanting to experience life, she's a young woman, she's a young adult. She wants to kiss, she wants to flirt, she wants to be normal. But also the weird way that people treat her, which is people revere her, is that the right word? And then people are clearly doing nasty shit. Okay, the Duke, and then that other man, the king and the Duke or whatever, yuck, disgusting. Not really fond of the way that she's treated. It's very crossing the line in my opinion. But yeah, it's really good. I'm surprised that sometimes this ends up on a list of like spicy books. Yes, there's moments where she's experiencing pleasure, but I don't think it's like super raunchy. So I don't know. You know, I mean, if the little experience of pleasure is good for people, then yeah. I don't think it's like considered a spicy book though. It's just like a adult fantasy book that has romance in it, in my opinion. But all in all, I liked it. I would definitely recommend the audiobook. I will be listening to the second book soon. And it was good. It was worth a read. The next book I read was The Man Who Could Move Clouds by Ingrid Rojas Contreras. I rated that 3 stars. This was my sister's book pick for our family book club. You know, when I finished that book, and it took me the whole month of September to read it, it's a memoir, and it's unlike any memoir I've ever read before. So I wanted to be good about not comparing it to, you know, like the memoir I read by Ali Wong. You know what I'm saying? It's not quite like that. Like, obviously, when I have read most memoirs by celebrities, it's like, yeah, we're talking about like my upbringing, my family and stuff, but it is really centered on the person that I'm reading about. Whereas The Man Who Could Move Clouds is Ingrid talking about her time as a child, but also going further back about her mother's life and then her grandpa's life. So I feel like it's more of a memoir about her family, her included, because she's telling the story. So that was like very different. Basically, her mother experienced a time in her life where she lost her memories. She had an accident, she was in a coma, and then she lost her memories for a period of time. And then at a certain age, her own daughter, Ingrid, had the same thing happen. She experienced an accident. She lost her memories for a shorter time than I think her mom did. And in general, her family has these kind of, I don't know how to put it into words. It's like they have some type of spiritual power to them. So, you know, it's a memoir, it's nonfiction. But when talking about the things that her family can do, like her grandpa can move clouds, her mother can, I guess the easiest way to describe it is like astral project herself, speak to ghosts. I can't really remember what Ingrid could do. She could do something. I think she could also kind of speak to spirits or something of that nature. And then other people in her family could do the same thing. Like when you're reading it, it almost read like magical realism. Like I almost felt like I wasn't reading a memoir, that I was reading like a fictional book. But she makes a really good point. She's from Colombia. When she travels over to America after a very crazy situation that happens with her and her family, she mentions how like people in America, like they can believe in ghosts. They can, you know, ghost hunting and stuff and hauntings is like an attraction. And yet what her and her family experience is not, is considered magical realism. So even though I got taken out of the book sometimes a bit, like with how, you know, magical things seemed, at the end of the day, I actually found it was really enjoyable. It's unlike any memoir I've ever read. I think because it's so much about her family first and then her. So I liked the pick. It wasn't my favorite book, so I don't think I would ever read this again, but I definitely would recommend it. I think it was interesting. It was something different. And then she also included pictures of her family. And it kind of all starts when her mother receives a type of message from her father, so Ingrid's grandfather, to like dig him up because he's dead and do something with his bones. I think rebury him or something like that. And it's just a whole journey going back to Colombia and kind of her talking about her experience when she was a kid, her mother's experience. So overall, very interesting. The next I listened to Goddess of Filth by V. Castro. I rated that 4 stars. Such a good audiobook. I would absolutely recommend it. It's on the shorter side of novella, and that's why I picked it, because I was like, let me get, you know, I want to read some scary stuff for October. Fantastic. So this was a book that, as an audiobook, I thought was very, very creepy, very good. Basically, a group of girls, they're drinking, they're having a sleepover, you know, they're essentially playing with the Ouija board. They cast a spell, and one of the girls in this group becomes possessed. And at first, her friends don't like quite understand what's going on. They know something's different about her. She starts acting very differently. She starts to like free bleed. She goes kind of outside of her house, like in the backyard, not dressed appropriately. And then she starts masturbating, like where people can see her, and she comes from a family that's like very like Catholic. But then as they discover, she's been possessed by the goddess of filth, a sin eater, and basically it's very interesting. The goddess of filth might seem like this evil entity, but she's not. There's definitely more to her, and then she also wants to be heard. So her friends actually want to embrace what is happening to their friend. They don't want to try to change her, although, you know, if something's bad, they're going to try to help her out if this is not a good situation. But all the while, we have a priest over here. I'm sure you can figure out what's going to happen. To be fair, I will trust no man who is religious. I'm sorry. Not much good comes out of that. Can we all agree? Okay, can we all agree that for the most part, I would be more shocked to know that the priest is a good person than to find out that he's bad. This man is evil. Think the priest in Baron the Nightingale. That's what it's giving. So overall, really great novella. I wish that it was longer, but I only wish that because like I want to know more. Like I want to know what happens next with the goddess of filth. Not because, oh, I felt like I didn't get enough out of it. I think it was actually written perfectly. So enough happened that like I have the backstory. I know the characters, the ending I liked. Overall, I thought it was really good. I wish it was longer because it was that good. Next, I read Just Get on the Pill by Crystal E. Littlejohn. I rated this 5 stars. The Uneven Burden of Reproductive Politics. So this was fantastic. This is under 200 pages. I actually think that I would actually recommend this for teenagers and young adults. I don't know if any of y'all have children. I think that this is worth a read, to be quite honest. Honestly, this says it all. The thing I got out of this book is just how gendered contraceptives are. So, you know, okay, let me start off by saying most of the interviews that are done in this book, well, if not all of them, I'm pretty sure all of the interviews are done by cis-het women. So she's talking to cis women who are in heterosexual relationships with a man who is cis, and talking about how, like, when they were younger, what kind of got them on birth control, how was their experience as kids, you know, were their parents informing them of what the pill was, of what condoms were, what they should do to be protected, did they follow through to make sure their kids were using things properly, and then interviewed later on as adults too, or they've been adults this entire time, but talking about their experience as adults and how, like, what happened to them as kids with maybe being informed or not informed with their partners, how that kind of affected their life, and how, like, oftentimes women are just expected to get on the pill. That's their role. The man's role is to have a condom. And yet, why do we make it the responsibility of the man by making it a stigma if a woman uses condoms and carries condoms on her? At the end of the day, condoms are not just about preventing pregnancy, they're also helpful in preventing STDs, female condoms, stuff like that. And there's a stigma with women carrying those. Why do we do that? Why do we expect that when we get in a relationship that just because this person that we're in the relationship who doesn't want to wear condoms, well, we're just going to have to take the pill? Well, wearing a condom and that being uncomfortable is much less of a big deal than the stuff that we experience when we get on birth control. As someone who's on birth control right now and about to get off of it, there are side effects which really, in comparison to, oh no, the condom that is comfortable. Come on, not that big of a deal. Anyway, I like that about this book because I think that is valid questions to ask and to, you know, have that conversation about, you know what, you as a cis woman, the people that were interviewed in this book, like, many of them as kids were either just kind of like, their parents found out they were sexually active, or just assumed they got them on the pill and that was it. They didn't have any further conversations with them. Or they had people in their life who said, always wear a condom, make sure he has a condom, but didn't like emphasize you should also have condoms as well. And then when they got into these relationships, you know, some were firm and I'm not going to be with you unless you wear one. And I'm not getting on the pill because I don't want to do that. You have to wear a condom. Or they did get on birth control but didn't use it like they were supposed to, which ended up in a pregnancy. Or you know, the pull-out method. Don't even get me started on that. But in general, I definitely think that this was a great book. Should I read anything on the back? Little John draws on extensive interviews to document the gendered compulsory birth control, a phenomenon in which people who give birth are held accountable for preventing and resolving pregnancies in gender-constrained ways. While diverse cis women are the focus, Little John shows that they are not the only ones harmed in this dynamic. Gendered approaches to birth control also negatively impact trans, intersex, and gender nonconforming people. That is true. That was in the book. In tracing the divisive politics of pregnancy prevention, Little John demonstrates that the gender division of labor and birth control is not natural, it is unjust. And yeah, definitely recommend this book. It's definitely worth a read. And as you can see, I annotated a little bit. I didn't go overboard this time because, you know, sometimes I go crazy, but worth the read. I absolutely agree. I also read The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. So this I rated like 3 stars. It's kind of like 2.5, but rounded up to 3. This was not that bad, but the thing about this book is that, okay, it's about a woman named, what's her name? Casey. She has been forced back to her like family lake house in Vermont because of a scandal that happened. She is suffering from alcoholism because her husband died on this lake, and it affected her in other aspects of her life, with her career. And to kind of get out of the public eye because she's an actress, she's sent to the family lake house by her mother. There she is just continuing to drink and continuing to be depressed until, you know, this couple moves across the lake, and it's Catherine and her husband, like, I don't know, Tom, basic name. She ends up meeting Catherine in a very explosive way, as you will see when you read the book, if you do read it. And she gets to know her. This is a very short period of time that they get to know each other, but Catherine is a model, and she kind of like lets these little things slip about Tom, how, you know, he's like a tech startup, he doesn't really have any money, all the money is Catherine's. She makes these comments like, he would never let me leave. You know, if we got divorced, that would be the only way he gets some money, or something like that. Maybe they had a prenup, I'm not sure. And then Catherine ends up missing. And Casey is so sure that Tom has something to do with it because of all the things that Catherine has said. He's acting funky and funny. Okay, she thinks that he's poisoning her, that he's killed her. And then that is like the main plot. And then we find out that around town, some young women have gone missing over the years. They've never been found. And of course, Casey's like, that's probably Tom. Tom is probably guilty of it. And that is part of the book. You know, we got to find Catherine. We got to prove that Tom is up to no good. And, you know, there's a neighbor who helps Casey, blah, blah, blah. All the while, she has to, like, stop drinking, by the way. So she is, like, a somewhat unreliable narrator. So, you know, if you've read a lot of, like, mystery thrillers, you kind of get the gist of what's happening. So, in general, I thought that aspect of the book, okay, I'm with it. I'm liking it. And I'm not going to get into super detail, but I will say that then Riley Sager introduces like a supernatural element into it that I did not think was good. I think that it just kind of made the story ridiculous at that point, that now there's a supernatural thing going on, versus how it was in Home Before Dark when we are told it's supernatural and then we find out it's not quite what it seems. This, and that's why I didn't rate this very high, because I definitely think that Riley Sager should have just picked one. You either make it supernatural, or you just keep it not that way, or you make it seem like it's supernatural and it's not. I actually prefer for them to make it seem like something supernatural is going on, and then we find out it's not, it's just some like everyday thing. I'm fine with that. So yeah, this, I felt like, it was okay. I don't want to give too much away. I might do like a spoiler review of this, because when I tried to do this earlier, I just went on too much of a rant in the video. And I know that the video was going to be long. But either way, it was okay. I'm definitely not disappointed I read it, but I'm probably going to unhaul this book, because what's the point of reading it again? But let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Do you think that the supernatural aspect of it was good? Did you like that? Did you think it could be done without? I feel like they could do without it. That's just me. Next up, I listened to The Butcher and the Wren by Elena Urquhart. I rated that 3 stars. Very similar to how it was with Riley Sager. It's more like 2.5, but okay. So this is written by a woman who does a true crime podcast called Morbid, I think it is. One of my coworkers was mentioning it to me. Hey, this is her debut book. She really likes this true crime podcast. So I was like, yeah, you know what? It's free on Hoopla. Let me listen to it. And you know, it was not bad. It was not terrible. Basically it's about a woman named Wren. She's a medical examiner, and she is along for the ride with the police to help solve these murders. Some bodies are, showing up. Obviously they're dead and mutilated. And okay, it's the butcher. He's like all in Louisiana killing people. And yeah, I guess that was pretty interesting. I think the way that the butcher was a murderer, okay, interesting. Yeah, I'll get with it. But then something shifts, and I had a feeling that this was going to happen, and we were going to see that something that something was a little bit different. Someone was involved in this that, you know, we didn't realize that they were. I saw that coming, but in the way that Urquhart does it, I was totally confused. I was like, I don't understand where this came from. Like the time shifted. I don't know. In the end, it's like the murderer basically becomes like, how do I put this? So if you listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, something that they'll say is like, I guess some guy, I think Ted Bundy may have said this, where he was like, eventually, you know, you're killing people, and then you forget the wrench, and it's like, oh shit, I just fucked up, you know. That's kind of what happened with the butcher. He was very meticulous and organized for so long, and then for some reason, now that he's back, he just sucks ass and is gonna get caught. Yeah. So when that thing happens, it's like, what the fuck? Like, okay, let me not go too much. This is another book that I tried to explain, and I know I went on a tangent. Basically, the way it ends is there could be a sequel. So I guess for a debut book for, you know, this first-time author, I would say, okay, for a first book in a series, good. In general, though, our main character, Wren, she's a medical examiner. I thought she was a police officer for a while, because why is this woman always here running around with the damn police? It is what it seemed like. I thought she was a cop. She's not. I'm not a medical examiner. I don't think that they're involved in finding people the way that Wren was in this book. I thought that was for detectives. I could be wrong. The butcher, I mean, I guess he's, you know, what you would expect of a murderer, the piece of shit. But yeah, he just seems so stupid, you know, when now they're trying to catch him. He's just so bad at it. And then the twist, it's not really a twist. I feel like that was pretty obvious what we were seeing here. I thought it was pretty clear. Anyway, okay, as far as, I mean, this is your first book, but like if I'm comparing it to anything else, like I kind of expect a little bit more. So yes, 2.53 stars. Next, I read Mexican Gothic, and I already forgot what I rate this. So this was like 3.5, like 4 stars for me. I actually really liked this book. So this is following Naomi. She lives in Mexico City. She's a young woman, like early 20s, and her cousin Catalina has written this letter to her uncle. It doesn't really make any sense, but something's clearly wrong. Her cousin moved away to live with this Englishman in some like very small mining town, former mining town. And he's like, I want you to go check on your cousin. She asked for you specifically. I think we need to find out if everything's okay, because I don't really trust him, This is like a white devil type situation, you know what I'm saying? So Naomi goes, she gets to the town. It's clearly, you know, it's no longer a mining town anymore. The mines are gone. So it's not as flourishing as it used to be. She makes her way up to this British manor because they wanted to make it British, even though they're in Mexico. It's dreary. I mean, it damn near sounds like it's in the, what is it, the Highlands? You know, in the marshes. Like, the imagery is like Wuthering Heights. That's what I got, because I read that book once. Anyway, she gets there. Something is clearly wrong with her cousin. She's almost like zombie-like in the way that she just sits in front of a window and stares out. She's not really talking. She has these moments of being like lucid and like understanding. She asks her cousin to go to this woman and get this tonic for me because I need it. I just need it. So all the while Naomi is there, something is not quite right with this family that her cousin married into. Only one of them seems like kind of normal, but it's the patriarch of the family, like the grandpa, his son, who Catalina's married to, the son's sister, I think, or maybe his cousin, I'm not sure, her son, and then the servants. Very, very creepy house. It's like dilapidated. There's fungus everywhere. It's very nasty. Not a livable place, in my opinion. She goes into town. She tries to ask around what's up with this family. People kind of have rumors, but they don't quite know. And all in all, this ends up taking a supernatural turn, which I like. I think that we were building up to it being something that's very supernatural. And then I think it was executed really well. So yes, you can have mystery, supernatural, and don't just kind of try to throw me off with something else. That's why I like Mexican Gothic. So yeah, this was very creepy. It was kind of like a slow burn at first. It wasn't until I think chapter 20, I was kind of thinking, okay, what's going on? I actually was under the impression that we were dealing with vampires. That's just what I was thinking. And then right after I made like a post on Instagram, everything kicked off. So I was like, okay, I'm actually really liking this. Very eerie, very gory at times too, I might add. And then I just think that the thing that was going on with the family was really, really gross, but in a interesting, scary way. So this was actually a really good book. I would absolutely recommend it. This is my first read by Sylvia Morena Garcia, and I would actually read another book by her. I think I have another one, and I cannot remember what it is, but it's one of the newer ones that came out. I think it has to do with werewolves and vampires though. The cover's beautiful. But yeah, I thought that was good. Mexican Gothic was actually really awesome. And I just remember there being like some type of drama on Twitter, and she came for somebody and I loved it. Okay, someone tried to come for Sylvia Morena Garcia. She snapped right back at him and I thought it was beautiful. So I already knew I kind of liked her. So yes, really good. Next up, I read Sour Candy by Keelan Patrick Burke. I gave that 3 stars. It's a novella. October is supposed to be like our break in my family book club. But I was like, we can't pass up the opportunity to read something scary for Halloween. So my mom and my sister agreed to read a novella. And Sour Candy was actually really good. I don't want to give too much away, but it definitely made me think of The Ritual. You know, some other really cool spooky things, like pagan-esque type situations. But basically, there's a man, he's living a pretty good life. Child-free life, by the way. Definitely was loving him in the beginning. He has this experience in a grocery store where he sees this like kid dressed up like a little, I don't know, colonial child maybe. And just screaming. And the woman that's supposed to be his mother she looks like she's on the verge of death. Like, she just looks done. He's disgusted by it. He's really freaked out, but he's also weirdly intrigued. Everyone's like, why is this kid screaming and just eating candy? She looks like she can't take it anymore. And all of a sudden, this kid looks at him. And he just has this weird feeling. Events occur, and this man who has never had a child, never wanted one, that's what he's known for this little kid who is his son. And that was very freaky. So anyway, a good little novella, Very easy to read, very quick. I actually think it did a really good job of kind of being like Goddess of Filth, where it was short, but I actually liked it. And I feel like I got enough of a background, a good middle of like craziness, and an ending that I did not expect. I did not expect that to happen. I kind of liked the ending though, but definitely good. Definitely wild. I liked it. It was definitely interesting. So yeah, I rated that 3 stars. Not bad 3 stars, just like it was good. Okay, I want to talk about this last book last, because when I tried to talk about this before, I went on too long of a tangent. So let me just say that I read volumes 28 through 32 of One Piece, and that's the Skypia arc. Really, really good. I really enjoyed that. I'm pretty sure I cried like 2 times. And then I read Noragami volumes 16 through 24. So there was like 9 volumes and then 5 volumes of One Piece. I've got 1 more volume of Noragami left before the series is over. I did a like a reading vlog of me reading that, so I'll put that in the cards. So far, I just really enjoy Noragami. I would definitely suggest it. The story, you know, we're at the end. We only have 1 more volume left, and I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no clue what's going to happen to some of these characters. It seems like only bad thing, and the only outcome will be bad, and I'm not looking forward to that. But it's been an emotional ride, and I definitely think it's worth it. Okay, White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. I rated that 5 stars. Okay, so I'm gonna try really hard this time to talk about this book quickly with no spoilers and not going crazy, because I went crazy last time and I cried a little bit. So, because this book was so good. Like I said, 5-star book, young adult horror, which I thought was fantastic. That was another book that was, okay, is this a haunted house? Maybe there's more to the story. So right off the bat, I liked it. I listened to it as an audiobook, and I think the narrator was fantastic. Her voice was like just perfect, and she reminded me of my friend Rochelle's voice, so I think that's another reason. So I'm a little biased because I really like that. And I miss Rochelle. I miss you, Rochelle. Okay, so our narrator, or our main character, is Marigold. She's like 16, 17 years old. She and her family are moving from California to like kind of like a Midwest-ish kind of state. I'm not sure exactly which one, but we'll just say like Ohio, kind of in the suburbs-ish. So Marigold, her brother, and her mother are Black. Her stepdad and his daughter, who's like 10, is white. The reason why they end up having to move from California is Marigold kind of has an issue. I don't want to give too much away, but she ends up having to go to rehab. It costs them a lot of money. And her mom gets an opportunity to come to this town for free, to live here for free, just to participate in like whatever they're doing for the town in terms of arts. So it's like a perfect opportunity, but you know, like kind of a too good to be true type situation. The house that they get is on a street, kind of like, I can't really picture in my mind, but I kind of thought like, I guess the best way to maybe say it is like a cul-de-sac, where like of the 6 or so homes that are there, like all of them have been burnt down or clearly have suffered some fire damage. Their house is the only one that is receiving any type of update. She is very confused. Why not just start from scratch, get rid of all these houses, all of that. Okay, see, I was about to go on a tangent. Okay, so as she's here, she's trying to discover what's going on with the house. It seems like it's haunted. People keep making comments about where she lives on the street, but no one will really tell her what's going on. As time goes on, she kind of discovers more about the town as a whole and how there's obviously more to the story than just, okay, this like very prominent and wealthy white family is trying to rebuild it, except, you know, this family has been the police chief, the mayor, a council person. They enacted laws that were like for petty drug offenses. So most of this community that is predominantly Black is locked up in jail. So a for-profit prison. Okay, so you know, it's very realistic. This was what's going on in the real world. Then she finds out that, oh, well, even though the vast majority of families are in jail. Now this wealthy white family is now going to get into the cannabis business. Hello, does that sound like America? Does that sound like America? So now we got people in jail for petty drug offenses. I mean, the police officers were in on it. People knew that they weren't doing drugs. Stuff got planted on them. Hello, this is the reason why I was so emotional reading this goddamn book. It was just too much for me. Too real. And through all that, she finally finds out what's going on with her street. Why people are so like kind of, they don't want to be near it. Something happens, think around Elm Street. Someone's accused of something and there's some fire that went down. And this is where I need to not go any further, because when I talked about this last time, it got to be too much. Either way, this book had me sobbing the last 10 minutes of it. Okay? I was making chili, crying in my kitchen, chopping onions. And it wasn't the onions, I promise you. I could tell that something was coming. I could tell that I was about to be emotional. And I sobbed standing up with a knife in my hand. I just could not deal with it. I messaged my sister. I messaged my husband. Emotionally, I was done. All in all, I think this book was fantastic. I think that it's compared to two things. I can't remember the first one, but Get Out is one of the works that it's compared to. And to me, obviously there's ways in which that think Ace of Spades as well. If you read that book, oh my God, that was fantastic. Love that audiobook. I think the reason why like the other, okay, calm down, slow down. Love the book, 5 stars. I was sad because in the end, you don't know what happens. You don't know if Marigold is able to expose what is going on in this town to everyone, because this family has been very successful in keeping the truth away from the rest of America. But you know how in Ace of Spades, certain people work to make sure this thing doesn't happen in other towns because it's a network of situations. And you know that. In this one, unless something was missing on the audiobook, it just kind of ends like that. And I could not emotionally handle it. It was too freaking much for me. But so freaking good. Oh my God. All right. So now the last book I'm going to really talk about, so I keep myself on track. I finally finished Bloody Bones by Laurel K. Hamilton. As I've said, read this series before. It was one of my favorite series growing up. Bloody Bones was the first book I ever read in the series, and I loved it. Honestly, really good again. Enjoyed it. Some stuff I forgot. This is when, Anita and Jean-Claude kind of get a little bit close down. But it's really good. I would really recommend Bloody Bones as a book. It's good, because honestly, the thing I like about Bloody Bones, once you've read the whole series, I think some of the best books as the series goes on, which eventually I had to give up on it, was when Anita is not having anything to do with half of the people that she's in a relationship with. When she's not in St. Louis, Missouri, I like that better. When she's away from Jean-Claude or Richard, or she only has one boyfriend with her, because she gets a ton of them eventually, it becomes overwhelming. But Bloody Bones, I think, remains a really, really good book. This is when she gets even further into her power, because like as we are going along in the series, like Anita is slowly seeing like the part of her that's a necromancer, or like she can raise zombies. She's not just an animator though, she's a necromancer, which means she can call vampires from the dead. She shouldn't be able to do that, because her whole thing is, vampires don't have a soul. I mean, I don't think a zombie has a soul either, but technically a vampire is alive, through supernatural, metaphysical shit. And yeah, she starts to see that her power is growing, and I like that for her. This is when Larry starts to get a little annoying. Lord. Eventually, when I make it all the way through my reread of the whole series that I have, up until a certain point, it's like everybody that was like really cool with Anita that was not sleeping with her. She ends up not being cool with them anymore. And I don't like that. I don't like that they did that to her. Who am I though? No one asked me. I don't write the damn books. But anyway, that is my part 1 wrap up. Okay. I know it was kind of long. I'm sorry, but it's actually shorter than the first time that I recorded this, because last time it was over an hour. I do think I might actually do like a spoiler review of some of these books. If you would like to see that, please let me know in the comments, because I could go into heavy detail, okay, of The House Across the Lake, with Mexican Gothic, with White Smoke especially, because it was just such a good book in my opinion. I absolutely recommend that you read it. But yes, there you have it. That's part 1 of kind of September, mostly. I mean, I finished most of the shit in October, but like part 1 of the October wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please like the video. If you like it, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on other social media. I'm trying to be better about posting on Instagram. I really, really am, I promise you. So yes, thank you so much. Talk to me in the comments if you'd like. And you have a good day. Goodbye.